Welcome back to another episode of Women of Tomorrow. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping on this video. Women of Tomorrow is a platform dedicated to the success and longevity of women all over the world. And today we have something very special. We are cooking a recipe that Malak introduced us to. Malak is our in-house nutritionist, and if you're wondering why we're here today, we are introducing womenoftomorrow.com. Womenoftomorrow.com is a destination for all us women. We're going to be speaking about fitness, nutrition, recipes, beauty, mental health, all kinds of things. And so it's kind of like our new baby. So today we're kicking it off with a cute little recipe, nutritious, easy, right?
Delicious.
I'm really excited to have Malak here with me today. Nutrition, healthy lifestyle is a huge part of her life. So it's really special to have someone like her to be the first contributor for womenoftomorrow.com. I'm really excited. Malak, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I love it. So many of my favorite ingredients. Green onions,
Scallions, cucumbers, avocado, edamame,
all the things.
So it's going to be so delicious. Lots of flavor. I'm like big on flavor.
I already smell
all the things.
What kind of spearheaded you into nutrition and just like making that like a priority in your life?
Honestly, it all comes down to childhood. So growing up, I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s when being super skinny was the look. And as a Middle Eastern girl, like I could never achieve that look no matter what. So it kind of came off of an insecurity with myself and everything that I went through as a child.
Yeah. That's relatable.
Yeah.
A lot of us, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like back then, we didn't have what we have now with like body positivity or just like different jean sizes in all different shapes and, you know, body types. So it all stemmed from there. I would read so many magazines and like do the health conscious columns. I was like obsessed with that. And we didn't have internet. We didn't have social media back then. So like magazines were the thing. And you know, we all grew up aspiring to be like Britney Spears, Destiny Child, like they all were like our models, at least like when you were preteen and really young. Yeah. So it was all basically based off of insecurities. But yeah, so I just decided to want to pursue a career in it, moving on in my life. I really always was interested in cooking and food, and I grew up around a lot of food and just that type of environment. So I kind of wanted to just like do something that felt good and that I was able to take care of myself and just like people around me. So
yeah, that makes so much sense. I can totally relate to just wanting to be perfect. Yeah, wanting to feel perfect, not really wanting to diet because that was hard to maintain, not really wanting to kill myself in the gym, but nutrition. When I learned that you could still eat a lot as long as it wasn't like the worst things, if it had nutritional benefits. So that I kind of like got into it myself in that same kind of way. So you're saying, so it started as a child, just like learning and reading.
Yeah, so I was really into like diet culture, honestly. Like back then, Atkins was like the thing. Like everybody was doing Atkins. Yes, and like the low fat phase was just so popular. I remember my mom even just like always buying like low fat foods and just like constantly being scared of fat.
Yeah.
And then Atkins came out and everybody started eating like high protein and high fat. And it's so funny because my mom had a friend growing up. She was like always overweight and she came to visit us one time and this woman had lost so much weight, and as like a 12-year-old, I was like amazed. I was just like, how did this girl like manipulate her body to be able to like lose so much weight? And I don't know like why, but I was just like so intrigued. No, I did. I was like sitting down with her and like literally questioning every little thing, like, what did you do? What are you eating? And she went through like the whole Atkins diet with me and was like telling me all about like her diet changes and how it all had to do with just what she ate. And so I was just so intrigued with all of this stuff back then. And Thankfully, it never came into like a point where I felt like I had an eating disorder or dealt with anything like that. I just always loved food and such a foodie. So it was never like that bad.
I didn't go that far.
Yeah, but thankfully I was just always just very interested in it. And it all started with the diet culture. And honestly, I didn't have an awakening until I became a mom. Like that's when everything shifted for me, and I started to understand that really what I'm nourishing my body with makes a huge difference with how I show up for my kids and just my body in general. I was honestly in awe of the fact that I was able to grow a human in my body, have this baby, feed this baby, and then just, I was young at the time too, and my body was able to bounce back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so I was just like amazed by this whole process. And I think also having a daughter made me realize that, you know, it's really important I didn't want her to grow up with like the insecurities that I went through. So it really like switched something in my head for me. And that's when I really felt like I delved into wellness versus just nutrition and dieting and wanting to be thin and manipulating my body. So.
You started to see that it was not just about the outside, but you could start from the inside.
Exactly.
From that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are we making today? Before we have many things we can chat about.
Exactly.
What's happening today?
So we're making a crispy rice salad. It's full of protein, lots of healthy fats, lots of veggies. We're going to start with the crispy rice first because it takes some time to make in the oven.
Okay.
So all we're going to do is take our rice. So the best thing about this recipe is that you can repurpose your rice that you have left over in the fridge. So
it's better to do it with not fresh?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can. You can definitely do it that way. But if you have rice that's already in the fridge ready to go, it's perfect for that as well. So we don't waste anything and just, you know, repurpose our leftovers. So
Got it.
We're just going to take our rice that's already cooked, and this is just short grain white rice.
We're repurposing this rice.
Yeah, so all we need is a sheet pan lined with parchment paper because we don't want our rice to stick to the pan. So we're just going to add the rice to the sheet pan. And you can just like
kind of
put it
pour
on
it
there.
in
Yeah, just pour it on there. We're going to add some chili oil to give it some spice.
I'm using all of it, right? Because I'm spreading it out all the way.
Fine.
Okay.
And then you don't need to spread it out just yet because we're going to mix in the oil.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll flatten it out. So you can add about like a few tablespoons of this stuff. It just depends on how spicy you like things.
So this is this not a tablespoon? Is this more than a tablespoon?
No, that's good. You're
okay.
Good. Yeah, we want it to be flavorful. Yeah, and then you could do one more.
Okay. I like spice.
Okay, good. I do too. So.
And so this is crunchy chili onion.
Yeah.
And olive oil with dried garlic and peppers. Okay, period.
So lots of flavor. So you can just use a spoon to mix it up.
Okay.
You want to incorporate all of the flavors onto the rice. And then we're just going to flatten it out and then put it in the oven, and it's going to crisp up. And that's what's really going to give us texture for this salad. And it's going to be really yummy. So.
Is this one of your go-tos?
This is actually a viral recipe that's been going around TikTok recently. So I was like, you know, I made it for the girls the other day, but I didn't do it with the chili oil just because it's a little spicy for them. But we did another variation and they loved it. So I'm like trying all the different variations now. Flatten it out. You want it to be one even layer so that everything crisps up nicely. Mm-hmm. And then we're just going to put it in the oven at 400 for about 20 to 30 minutes, and we're just going to mix it halfway to make sure that everything is crisping up nicely.
Is this, okay, so this is good?
Yeah, perfect. Let's go.
Okay, so talk to me about like rice, because, you know, rice is like people, I guess it goes back to like proportions and, you know, with all the diets and things, like, it's always like, cut this out, cut this completely out, cut this out. And so for you, you've been through all the diets.
I've been through all of it.
Okay, so Atkins, you did Atkins.
I've tried like a variation of it, yes.
Is that like high protein?
It's like high protein, high fat, very minimal carbs.
You tried Atkins. What is the diet you would say that you stuck with for the longest or that you found like most benefit from? Is there like one?
Yeah, so right now it's just mainly sticking to whole foods. So I like to eat just anything that God has created for us to eat. So minimal processed foods, I'm going to cut out. Anything like high sugar, anything that's made, honestly, in a factory, like it's just not going to benefit me or my kids either. So I just love sticking to whole foods, and my body does well on a Mediterranean-based diet just because I'm Middle Eastern, and I'm a big fan of eating how your ancestors ate. I think it's just our DNA is more used to that type of eating and just evolving that way. So I just love sticking to more of a Middle Eastern, Mediterranean type style diet where it's mainly higher protein and white fish, chicken, things like that. And then lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of seasonal things, decreasing the sugar and just processed foods in general.
So it's not, so at this point, it's like, it's not a fad or trend. It's a lifestyle.
It's basically a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle of whole foods. Like, this came straight out the ground. This came straight out the ground versus like it being manipulated in any kind of way.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for making like this, choosing like a veggie option today, because I love all of these things. And so right now you don't cut out certain food groups. You cut out processed things.
Yeah, pretty much. Anything made in a factory, anything that, has a large label on the back, lots of ingredients that you can't pronounce or even understand what they are. Like, I don't think it's going to be beneficial for my body to have that in.
And the shelf life, right? Yeah. The shelf life is like, if it can last on a shelf for 3 years, how is it going to move through our bodies?
Exactly.
So So while we're kind of just like letting that do its thing, tell me a little bit about nutritional therapy. You're a nutritional therapist.
Yes.
What does that mean? That sounds amazing.
So it's more of a holistic route to nutrition and looking at the body as a whole versus just individual systems. So instead of like, if you have like a gut problem, instead of just treating your gut, you're going to treat the whole body. Because we are one whole system, and systems don't work individually.
They're connected.
Everything is connected, So if you're having like a skin problem, it's usually something to do with your gut or like your sugar imbalance or, something like that. So you're going to be treating the body as a whole versus just individual things.
Yeah. How do you assess like people when it comes to their issues like that? Like, is there a certain questions that you always ask to kind of get a baseline understanding of what's going on? Because many people will try to, like, even in the gym, they're like, I want abs, and they'll just do crunches versus like maybe doing a little cardio mixed with that to get there. What kind of questions do you typically want to know up front to help like assess?
So it's a lot of things actually, and it's more of really understanding the person's lifestyle, because it's not just about what you eat, it's how you move your body, it's the products that you're using, it's your stress levels, your sleep. So it's more of like just looking at your whole lifestyle, how things are going on, what like stressors you're going through, what foods are you eating that are triggering certain things. I first start to ask about their nutrition and see what they're currently eating. So I'll have them do like a food journal and just literally write down everything that they're eating for a week. And then we go through that food journal and see what things could possibly be improved, what could we add into the diet versus constantly talking about restricting. Because there's so many things, like if you are dealing with issues, you could probably just be missing certain nutrients. So instead of like thinking about all the things you have to eliminate and worry about taking out of your diet, I like to approach it in a sense that, no, we're just going to be adding more healthy foods. And I think that also helps mentally, because instead of being in that restricted mindset, you're more into that, like, okay, there's abundance in my diet.
To enjoy more than cutting it out. No, that's good, because, and then you're introducing people to foods that they probably didn't know about.
Exactly.
And then they have more to play with.
Exactly.
Have you noticed that what a lot of people are dealing with is nutrient deficiency?
Honestly, yes. A lot of deficiencies because we are over supplementing with like processed foods, and we just don't take the time anymore, at least in our culture, in our society now, where it's like constant hustle, constant, like we're all so busy. We all have like a million things on our plate. And same as, I go through this as well.
Yeah.
But we just don't take the time to like cook our food and, go grocery shopping. But I do think we're in a constant stress state, unfortunately. Like we're just subjected to lots of crazy news on the media and just like even social media in general, like constant dopamine hits, like all of these things affect our body greatly.
Yeah. I don't think we talk about that as much. We don't talk about the stress that comes from just like being overly stimulated.
Yeah, and we're just consumed with other people's lives, and we just have so much to improve on with our own lives. And I fall in this as well.
Yeah, we
like
all do.
Us,
we're all here living in this space.
It's hard being a human in 2025, I have to say. But if you put in certain systems and if you have boundaries with certain things, you end up seeing results for a long time.
Yeah, I see this quote every once in a while where it says, you're going to pay for it. People say, eating healthy is expensive. And then I'm like, well, doctor bills are way more expensive. Exactly. And then you're like paying for it. You either pay for it up front or you pay for it later in the back end.
And when later comes, it's also affecting other people in your life. It's not just you. It's like your kids, your significant other, your friends, your community, and you're not able to show up as your highest self. So I think it's just better to start as early as possible.
As early as possible. Yeah, like you were saying, like there's a place for it, but then we're overdoing it.
Yeah.
And even like with like Instacarts, like they don't even pick the right produce.
I know.
It's like, I have to go pick up my own produce. I need to make sure the grapes are firm.
Yes.
They just grab whatever. They just grab.
Yeah. And it's just, I've gone through so many scenarios with Instacart where I'm like, I cannot stand these people. Like they just grab, I ask for 4 bananas, they'll grab like 4 dozens of bananas. I'm like, what am I going to do with all these bananas? So it's like, come on, guys. But I mean, I will say it served a purpose for me when I was like postpartum, for example, and I couldn't go to the grocery store and I needed groceries to like feed the kids and just like, have that convenience. So I'm not going to say like we're going to, eliminate Instacart, but of course, shopping at the farmer's market is definitely going to be the top of the line, way that you can do it. Or growing your own produce is even something to consider if you're able to. But, there's so many options out there.
There are options. And I think what it really comes down to is people taking responsibility for their lives.
Sure, yes.
And not just, putting it off on these different technologies or conveniences. It's like, you have to be intentional so that you can actually have the outcome that you want.
Yeah, intentionality is everything, honestly, when it comes to health, wellness, just feeling better. And unfortunately, like the system and the society we live in sets us up for the failure.
Yeah.
So if you do go down that road, you're going to end up on the pharmaceutical drugs. You're going to end up depressed. You're going to end up overweight and not feeling your best. So you kind of have to fight the system a little.
You do.
And just like constantly educate yourself and like seek out help and be part of community where you are able to learn these things. And it's nowadays, like everything is accessible. So it's a great time, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm so glad that we're here, like, showing, and we're going to be continuing to show people it's not as difficult as you think.
It's really not.
You just have to be intentional and prioritize it, because it's just going to help you more in the future.
Exactly.
The rice is smelling good.
Yeah, it's actually good.
I kind of want to touch on, I see you on Instagram. I see you making all the good stuff, and it's just like, everything looks so yummy, right? How do you make food, healthy food, nutritious food? I like to say nutritious because people say healthy. Oh, I'm eating clean, I'm eating healthy. But really it comes down to, is there nutrients in your food? Is there anything of value to your body that's in the recipe? How do you make nutritious food fun, that your children love?
It does take research, but I have to say that I've come to a point where there are certain recipes that are go-tos, and I know my kids are going to love, and they're nutritious, they're quick, they're easy, and they're delicious. So that's what I'm going to go towards and make more of. I'm not going to force my kids to eat something that they don't like. I'm just, of course, going to like have them be introduced to different ingredients and have them try different things. But if I know that there's certain recipes that they love and they really enjoy eating, we're going to have a rotation of meals throughout the week and just stick to that, just to get the stress out of it and have to like constantly think about what am I going to make today? And, you know, 'cause especially if you're cooking a lot at home and want to make like ready-made meals that are prepared at home, it's really important to just stick to the basics and stick to things that you actually like and things that are quick, because honestly, like, I don't want to be spending all day in the kitchen, and I know a lot of people are busy. So we just stick to clean, healthy recipes that are quick and delicious.
So there's a couple things I want to ask. Because one thing I definitely want to touch on is preparing food at home, and how in this day and age, the more we can do that, the better. But when it comes to your children, and I hear all the time that children are so picky, they don't want to eat this, they don't want to that. And then you have some people who are like, they'll eat what you have with them. But you know, being around other children and other children having all kinds of snacks and different kind of things, how do you manage that? How do you manage like maybe making a homemade Reese's Pieces versus their friends having like, the processed version?
I have to say it's definitely a journey, and it does take some, you know, mind games and some fun in it. But for sure, whatever you get your kids used to, they're going to eat. And the earlier you start, the better it is, because like they develop their palate and they just start to really enjoy those foods. Like a lot of people are amazed that my daughter Sophia will eat oysters and Brussels sprouts. And I'm just like, you guys, like it's totally normal. She's been eating these things since she was like 4 or 5 years old, you know? So she's just developed like a palate for it and actually really loves it. And another tip that I have is to, you know, you are the one who does the grocery shopping. So whatever you're bringing into the house is what they're going to eat. Environment plays a big role when it comes to eating clean. And this is also plays for us adults as well. You know, like when it comes down to whether you eat the salad or the chips, you know, a lot of times we're going to go towards the chips just because it's easy, it's, you know, delicious.
The salt, the crunch.
And it's designed to do that. Unfortunately, you know, these companies are just out here trying to take our money, and this is how they do it. They just design these foods to be super addictive. So
I don't think people realize that these foods are made in a factory, and they're in boxes and cute packages, and they say natural and they say low fat or all the different things. But ultimately, it's almost like they're not food, they're food products.
yeah, exactly.
And so they're putting a lot of chemicals, I would say, in these foods to make us repeat customers.
Exactly.
To make us crave it and make us like not be full.
Exactly. And it's just empty calories in the end of the day. And the problem is your body perceives it as food. And so it just wants more because it's trying to find that nutrition out of that food. But the more you eat, like your body is not getting that nutrition out of it. So it's like really a pointless game.
So your body is actually searching for nutrients.
Yes, because you're giving it that signal, like it's salivating, it's digesting, and it's just like going through the whole process of like looking for that nutrition to be able to support your body. But unfortunately, like these processed foods are just empty calories. And if anything, they're just like causing more harm than good.
They're causing more harm.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Once I kind of like sometimes I'll do like a cleanse or a fast, and I'll clean out like my blood from all the because from what I've learned that cravings lie in the blood.
Yes.
And so when you fast and you clean out your blood, then you can like have a fresh start. And then when I eat, like I could eat like 5 a big handful of grapes and be full versus like eating like a little granola bar, and then like 20 minutes later I want another granola bar or something like that.
The best thing about fasting, since you brought it up, I love fasting. Like fasting is such a great way to reset your body, just to go through a cleanse. And I think everybody should do a fast at one point in their life, or even like on a monthly basis. Yeah, if they can. Of course, if their health permits it. But fasting gives you such an appreciation for whole foods. Like it resets your palate. And so when you eat things like let's say you have intense sugar cravings and you go through like a serious fast, it makes things like berries, fruit, like have such a high like taste versus just like that processed sugar taste, because your palate is just so off when you're just constantly eating that way. But you have like such a great appreciation for things like fruits and just natural foods in general.
Yeah, and I tend to like you were saying, it makes so much sense. The body's looking for nutrients, and so often we're wanting to be full, like we want that feeling of full, but when you have high nutrients, your body is satisfied and you actually can end up eating a lot less and be like done.
And that's why I love the whole foods diet approach, because people find that once they cut out all the processed foods, they actually end up losing so much weight just by eating whole foods, even when they don't count their calories or count their macros. When their plates are just more balanced and they're just doing whole foods, they find that they get satiated faster. There's no signals that are being disrupted by like processed foods, and they just end up losing weight naturally without even having to stress about calories or macros or any of that. So yeah, I love the whole foods diet approach.
Whole foods is everything.
Yeah.
And then it sounds boring when you have a bunch of like chemicals in your body that want you to have that refined sugar and salts and stuff. But once you cleanse that out, an apple is like, ooh, an apple. You know, it really does work like that.
And there's so many fruits and vegetables out there that we're just so used to eating like the same things. But like once you cut out and make like processed foods not an option, you start to be more creative and you start to see that there's so many seasonal things that you've never tried or that you have, you see at the grocery store and you never buy because you're just, buying other things. But it just opens up your world because there's so much abundance, with what's out there.
I love that you say that. You said something about counting macros. What does that mean? Because I see that and I never tapped into that. Because I never was I feel like I was at a point at some time where I counted calories, but I stopped doing that because it was just but what does it mean to count macros, what is it?
So macros are like macronutrients. So your protein, your fats, and your carbs. So you're basically tracking how much of each component you're eating on a daily basis. So a lot of people like to do the macro style of counting getting this type of information versus calories, because it gives you more, you're able to tap into more understanding how much protein you're getting versus fats versus carbs, and you're able to really dial it down more. But if you are trying to lose weight or you have a health condition that you really want to tackle, it's definitely beneficial to understand how much you're putting into your body, because a lot of times we don't even have any idea of what's going in, So it's good to go through it just to get that information and have that awareness. And sometimes when you manipulate different macros, you can manipulate your body and try to lose that weight. So for example, a lot of people are on a diet trying to lose weight. Weight loss is a big thing that I help people with. And so they'll be like, oh, I'm eating healthy. But then when you go through their food log, you just realize that they're not eating any protein. It's super high in carbs, high in sugar, high in fat, And so you just manipulate a few things. You tell them, eat more protein, eat more vegetables, have more fiber in your diet, and you notice big changes. So, sometimes we think that we're eating healthy, but when we sit down and actually look at the numbers or look at what we're actually consuming, it's a different story.
So that food journal is a game changer.
Yeah,
right?
it's nice. Yeah, for people to realize, because sometimes, we overestimate or underestimate what we're doing. So
you forget you have that little snack in between that snack and in between that.
Or the coffees that are super spiked with sugar. You think, oh, it's just a coffee, but it's actually 200 grams of sugar that's just starting your day. So
yeah. I was going to ask, what do you think the biggest misconception is with the people that you work with when they think that they're eating healthy?
So a lot of the girls, especially women that I work with, are under eating. So they think, oh, I'm not even eating that much. I'm just starting my day with a coffee. I'm having a protein bar for lunch, and then for dinner, I'm eating salmon and veggies, and I'm still not losing weight. My hair is falling out. My skin is a mess, and I just don't understand. I don't eat that much, And so it turns out that they're just actually under eating. They're not nourishing their bodies enough. And that is going to wreak havoc on your hormones, on your body. And, unfortunately, we can get away with it when we're really young, but it starts to really hit us hard, late 30s, early 40s. And then you see things like early menopause starting to happen. So It's just, less food doesn't always equal healthy or weight loss. Sometimes you actually have to eat more to lose the weight or to feel better.
But
Nutritious food, yes.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of eating less, and you mentioned earlier that if your health permits you to do a fast, do a fast. I see this often about fasting and I guess people approaching it wrong and like not fully preparing their body for it, and then also breaking it in the wrong way. When you typically are fasting, how do you prepare your body for the fast, and then how do you kind of like wean yourself back into eating again?
So there's different types of fasts. You can do, honestly, we can all fast on a daily basis. And for women, what I love to recommend is fasting in the evening versus in the morning. In the morning, our body's already high cortisol, like you're waking up and your body is ready to go. And it needs nutrition to be able to get through the morning or to get through your day. But before bed, I always recommend stop eating like when the sun goes down, or to stop eating like around 6 p.m. Ooh. We can put it here. Just be careful.
This is exciting.
Okay, so it did crisp up. I don't want to put it in anymore because I don't want to burn it.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Ooh, look at it.
What I recommend, especially to women, because we go through so many hormonal changes and our body needs nutrition, is to fast in the evening. So the best time to do it is when the sun goes down, just no more food. Give your body that chance to rest and digest. And then that way it'll give you better sleep and you'll be able to get like better growth factor in your sleep because your body's not focusing on digesting food. It's more focusing on rejuvenating and healing and all the processes it needs to go. Yeah. And then there's also fasts that you can do like 24, 48-hour fast where you really push it and you're just maybe doing like a water fast. You're just only having water. That's also beneficial to do maybe like once a month or every quarter out of the year and try that out. And then there's also dry fasting. Like I just came out of Ramadan where we fast from sunrise or dawn to sunset. And there's no food. So no water, no food. And you're just basically, completely dry everything. And trying to heal that way. So there's just different forms of it. And I think like everybody, depending on their health status, where they're at, how much they can handle. But start with like the daily fasting if that's something that you want to, explore.
And then I know some people when they fast, they're like, okay, so I'm going to eat like all this food because I hear this a lot. I'm about to cram it all in because tomorrow my fast is coming. And then they eat everything they possibly can, then because they know they're not going to eat the next day. And then immediately after they fast, they're like back to eating everything they can. And from what I read, that can kind of be harmful to the digestion because it's just like going from one extreme to the next.
Yeah, I would say you're doing yourself a disservice and like completely, like all of the benefits are not, you're not going to see them that much because of that type of approach. It's nice to like ease into it after you break your fast. If you're going to also load up on food before a fast, you're just like expanding your stomach and it's just going to be harder for you to go through that fast. Because your stomach is like expecting so much food. And so I wouldn't recommend that, but just like ease into it. And then after you break your fast, start with like warming foods. You can do like bone broth, you can do lemon water, you can do like a tea, and then just like slowly ease into it with your digestive system just so that you're not like bombarding it with too much stuff. And I would also suggest like doing, instead of like raw veggies, doing like steamed things that are easy to digest versus it being like high fiber and just like harsh on your stomach.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then of course keeping it clean. Foods.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go right into like McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. Please don't.
Okay. So we got our rice ready. What's next?
Okay, so we're going to do the dressing. So if you want to mix up all of these ingredients for me, in our dressing, we're going to do some peanut butter.
So just pour this right in.
Yeah, and you can use this if you want.
I love peanut butter.
It's such a good, like it adds so much flavor and healthy fats and really, really yummy for dressings.
Is there an alternative for people who have a peanut allergy? Would you say like an almond?
You can do almond, you can do sun butter, like sunflower seed butter. A lot of people can tolerate that better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what is this?
That's garlic.
Garlic. Do you just put everything in and then stir, or should I be stirring?
No, okay. You're good.
And so this is soy sauce?
Yes, this is soy sauce. It's actually liquid aminos, so it's not.
So it's an alternative.
Yeah, it's an alternative. You can do coconut aminos too, if you don't want to do soy.
Okay.
This is actually sesame oil. Sorry.
That was sesame oil?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
this is a little bit of honey.
Ooh. Okay.
Sweeten it up a little, and you're gonna need to use the air
to get it all out there.
Mm-hmm. That's water. It's gonna thin it out.
Okay, so I can go ahead and do that?
Yeah. Yeah, can we get another one?
I think I just need to roll it or something, just say.
Thank you.
Are you?
Okay, let's try this.
That's the magic.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. This is a very interesting look.
Yeah, you just gotta really mix it. Sorry, the blender I ordered didn't end up coming.
Oh no, this is cool.
I wanted to have this pretty blender and it didn't come. It's supposed to be.
But you know what? When it comes to like food, it's like everything is not gonna like, this can be like a really like relaxing therapeutic ritual.
Yeah.
To like make your food be like, oh yeah.
Honestly, like cooking for me is like an act of self-love and self-care. You don't have to go to the spa. You can just cook yourself a nutritious meal and, you know, of course, go to the spa every once in a while, but you have an opportunity to take care of yourself every single day with a meal every single day. So
exactly. I think that's a huge piece that we all are missing, like home cooked food made with love. Remember when they used to say like people put love in their food? It's like DoorDash is not putting love in their food.
They're rushing.
They're
to make
rushing
sure that it's getting to you.
They might be snacking on it on the way
exactly
to you.
They could care less.
Okay,
I
so
think I'm actually going to put
nice.
a little bit more peanut butter.
Should I
Okay,
start
that's
chopping
looking
up
good.
things? Yeah.
Okay.
Start chopping. I'm going to keep whisking.
Okay.
Okay, so now so those are the cutest little cucumbers. Is that like a Persian cucumber?
Yeah, it's a Persian cucumber.
Okay.
Yeah. I like them more than the bigger ones just because I feel like they have more flavor.
Okay.
Any cucumber works for this recipe.
I feel like they're also like firm, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have our rice. That's just what takes the longest to cook when it comes to this recipe. But then after that, it's just chopping the ingredients, plating it, and you're good to go.
This is exciting. Having a rotation of dishes. I feel like, does that also help with your body being used to what you're eating and then helping the digestion process when you're like kind of eating the same kind of foods all the time?
I mean, it all depends again on like your health status, what you're starting with. Like if you are dealing with a chronic health issue, it all depends. What I like to recommend is to eat seasonally. So you don't want to be eating like watermelon in the winter, you know, just eat like whatever the earth is producing at that time. And that's the best for your body because there's so many nutrients in the foods that are being produced during that season that could provide so much nutritional value for you. So like in the winter, there's lots of citrus and a lot of times people are getting sick and like colds and flus, and citrus is like high in vitamin C. So like that's going to be super beneficial for you to have more of in the winter time versus like in the summer. In the summer, we have things like watermelon that's super hydrating during like the really hot days. So it makes a lot of sense to eat seasonally versus just like, you know, unfortunately fortunately, and I guess it's like your perspective on things, but we have like an abundance of all the things at all the times, you know, so sometimes you don't need to be eating watermelon in the winter, you know, save it for the summer. It's going to taste so much better and it's going to provide your body with so much more benefits in nutrition. It just depends on who you are and what's going to make you stick to your goals and your health and wellness better.
Yeah, individual approach.
Yeah, versus, just making rules for everyone to apply.
Yeah.
Because we're all so different.
Yeah.
You know?
Tell me a little bit more about, you were saying a Mediterranean diet works for you. Tell me a little bit more about like the benefits and the power of eating like ancestrally.
So when it comes to ancestral eating, I feel my best that way. And this realization came to me later on in life. And it just makes sense, it's just how we evolved eating the way that our ancestors did. So for me, for example, like eating a ton of potatoes is not going to benefit my body. I actually hold on to a lot of like inflammation, and my body just like swells up because my ancestors didn't, have this type of eating long time ago. We ate more of like olives and like fatty fish, and people like from Asian descent are more likely to do well on like high rice diets, and
how they can eat rice and certain people can't. It's like, how do you guys eat rice every day?
They are so thin and they look good and they're flourishing and thriving. So it just depends on, where you're from in the world and eating the way your ancestors did.
So it's worth people taking like a look into that.
Yes. And just like maybe asking your grandparents, how did they eat? Like, what did they eat more of? And just what did they grow up on? And, implementing those type of foods into your diet.
That makes sense. Okay, I did good, right?
Perfect. Yeah, looks great. All right, so we're going to add that to our cucumbers.
Okay, so now are we doing this whole thing?
Yeah, we're going to do...
Okay, so I see you have it sitting in the water.
Yeah, this is a great way to actually store your herbs in the fridge. It keeps them fresh, and they don't like wilt or anything. And
so you pick them up from the store and then transfer them into water.
I just give them a nice rinse to get like all the dirt out and if there's anything in there. And then just put them in like filtered water in like a glass container and just keep them in the fridge. And they last so long.
So it's worth doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Because if I just keep them in the bag that it comes in or whatever it is, they just wilt so fast. Yeah, I got you. They just get all moldy and nasty. And this way it's just nice and fresh. And I honestly feel like it gives the fridge a nice aesthetic and more inviting. So we're just going to give it a good chop.
What's going on? Oh, this smells so good. So you have the cucumbers, the cilantro,
and the
scallions. Mm-hmm. And now what's next?
Now we're just going to add the edamame.
Okay.
And I love edamame because it has protein in it. It's like a nice plant-based protein source. Mm-hmm. We can just add that on there. And this is like such a green salad.
It's so good.
So pretty.
Yeah.
And then we're going to add avocado.
And so this is you followed this recipe to the T, like the viral recipe?
Just a few adjustments, but for the most part, it's like very similar, yes.
Ooh, these avocados look good.
I don't know, the California avocados are the best.
Next level, right? Have you noticed that the produce here is better than from
Virginia?
Yeah.
I think, it has been. It feels fresher, and I really love the abundance of farmers markets out here.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many to choose from and go to, and they have them every day of the week, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So we're just going to take this out.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then you're going to cut it.
Yeah.
I never do it that way.
How do you do it?
I always this is how I do it.
Oh, okay.
And then I scoop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you could do it that way too. I'm just used to it.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm just getting a little nervous because I'm ready to eat. I'm like,
All right. So we're just going to chop this up. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess this saves you a step of having to really tack it up. Does it distress people when you cook without gloves?
Oh, I feel like if you're cooking, I don't know. I never cooked with gloves.
I feel like it's weird, you know, right? But I always see people wearing gloves when they're cooking, and I'm like,
for themselves?
well, I don't know. I mean, like recipe videos online.
Oh, yeah. I always think that's weird.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if you're like, I was at this one sushi restaurant. Well, I think it's a sushi restaurant. Well, I don't know if it was a sushi restaurant, but they had a sushi bar. And they did not have on gloves. And they were handling like raw fish and putting
other things. Yeah,
I thought they should have had on gloves.
Yeah.
Like, because it was like, well, wiping sweat and all of that. It's just
you
like,
can't do that.
I couldn't believe that because it was like a high-end restaurant. I couldn't believe that they weren't like,
you can't do that. You got to wear the gloves, especially with raw food.
yeah.
And if you're serving it to people, like, no. Oops. Oh. Okay.
Nice blooper for you guys.
Mommy. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, so this looks beautiful so far. All right, so now we're just gonna add all the yummy things. So
Okay, I'll let you do that.
we have some chopped peanuts here. We're gonna add, that's also gonna give us a nice crunch. The salad.
I think that's also important. Like people, when they're transitioning into like non-processed food, they still want to have like some of those sensations. They want the crunch.
Yeah, like
The
texture.
crispy. Yeah, texture is a big thing.
Yes, exactly. And then now we're gonna add our crispy rice on the top.
Okay.
I feel like we need a lot, but
You did.
yeah, so we
That
can
came
just
out
save
to
some.
a lot.
Yeah. Perfect. And now the grand finale, we're gonna add the dressing. This dressing is actually super good with a lot of different things. So you can use it for so many things. All right.
We're about to eat, guys. So thank you guys so much for joining us for this special edition of Women of Tomorrow. We will leave this recipe on the website, and we have so much more to come. This was just a little taste of what we have coming. See you guys next time.